Recognized for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Brooks, welcome back to the committee. I think the testimony that you offered about the nexus between federal bank policy, over-regulation of the banking sector, and affordable housing is very timely. As you know, Chairman Hill and I introduced the Main Street Act to right-size regulation so that especially our community banks can focus on the housing market and help Americans achieve the goal of home ownership. Your point that non-banks currently originate the large majority of all mortgages while banks originate the remainder, most of those loans wind up on government-related balance sheets with only about 10% of mortgage credit risk borne by the private sector, I think is a very important point. You highlight two causes. First, Dodd-Frank disincentivizing mortgage lending, and then second, bank supervision leading banks to be wary of lending to apartment owners and developers, and the negative signal that sends. How might the Main Street Act that we've proposed help solve these problems and enhance community banks, in particular, their ability to help Americans achieve the American dream of home ownership?
Well, Mr. Barr, thank you for the question. It's great to see you again, and thanks for your leadership on that bill in particular. It's a great idea. I would argue the most important idea of the package that the committee's looking at. And I say that because community banks are so much better credit managers of these kinds of loans than are Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac. And why? Because they live in the local community where they know the asset, they know the borrower, they know the history of the asset. I think about Mr. Huizenga's story about his small apartment building in Michigan, right, where the local bank that knew him well was not allowed to invest in that loan, and instead it got shipped off to some bank someplace else that wouldn't know it as well. So, first of all, an enormous amount of deployable capital sits in banks below $10 billion, which is what you're focusing on in this Main Street Act.
And nothing wrong with non-bank mortgage originators, but more competition, the better. Competition 100%. In credit markets lowers costs, 100%. Obviously. And don't forget the fact that most of, up to 60% of all of the 1 to 4 family residential construction and land development loans are community bank held. And so another reason to promote regulatory tailoring for these community banks. Mr. O'Leary, want to pick up where you left off on affordable energy and China and the investment that they are making in reliable, affordable sources of energy, coal being primary. You know, because of the war on coal over the last 16 years under the Obama and Biden administrations, the United States has prematurely retired 290 coal-fired power plants, precisely at the time when AI data center energy demand is skyrocketing. We have taken offline over 120 gigawatts of power over the last decade or so. Coal's share of total electricity generation in the United States has plummeted from 44% of total U.S. electricity in 2009 to only 15% of 2024. And it's no surprise that there's been a dramatic spike in electricity rates. In Kentucky alone, utility rates have increased 59% over the past 16 years. So what is the answer? You said in China they say build it in 18 months or you'll disappear. How do we bring more coal generation back online to win the race for AI, which Jensen Huang says we're only nanoseconds ahead of China?
Path to permit. I'm a real estate developer. I also develop data centers. We need a path to permit in less than 7 months. So there's plenty of stranded nat gas all over the country. So my job now is to go from state to state to find 2,000 acres with water, with stranded nat gas at sub 6 cents a kilowatt hour, and then I sit with leadership and say, can you get me a permit to begin construction in 7 months? Because I have to go, just to start the power, the 1.4 gig, to make a 1 gig facility, of which the demand in the U.S. is 45 gigs, only 5 under construction right now. I'm one of maybe 10 teams that can do this. If we don't have a permit in 7 months, we can't go to the debt markets. We need $2 billion to start.
Well, I've talked to Secretary Lutnick about how we can encourage more construction and
just give me permits.
Power. And we'd love to talk about that. Final question to Mr. Moore. In his testimony, Professor Hamilton said we need an economic paradigm that rejects private interests under the banner of modern supply-side economics. Can you speak to how unleashing the supply side of the economy through lower taxes, less regulation, more energy production, more supply of capital lowers prices?
He can, but he'll have to do that in writing.
Supply, supply, supply. That's how you lower prices. It's not that hard.
Gentleman's time has expired. Chair recognizes the gentleman from Missouri, Mr. Cleaver, who's the ranking member of our Housing and